married to silence. And the word and silence were one. Through their love, all things were made. Without them, nothing was made that has been made. The Word has spoken to the world, but the world has not understood it. Now it is time for the silence to speak. Way back when, in ancient Wales, there was a king known as Pwyll Penanwen, and he was given that name because he had spent 1 year as king of the underworld. And on his return from the underworld, there was great celebration and rejoicing and singing and storytelling and dancing. And when all that had finished, he took his men out to hunt. And out on the hills, he spied a green and grassy mound. And he said, "I feel like sitting on that mound." But his wise man came and said to him, "Sire, I must tell you that anyone who sits on that mound will have one of two things happen to him. Either something wonderful or something terrible will befall him." But the king said, "I am Pwyll Penanwen, and nothing scares me. So I will go and sit on the mound." As he sat on the mound, it was twilight and the sun was beginning to set. The most beautiful woman, with long, black, raven hair, rode slowly past on a great white horse. And Pwyll felt that this was the most beautiful woman in all the world that he had ever seen. And so he sent a servant boy to run after her. But as fast as he ran, she was always just ahead and just out of reach. And so he ran back to the king and he said, "Sire, nobody will catch her on foot. I need a horse." He gave him a horse and he galloped after her, and still he couldn't catch her, and she disappeared into the darkness. So he galloped back to the king, and they went back to the castle that night. And the next day, the king took them out to the green and grassy mound, and he sat there and he waited. And as the sun was going down, the beautiful lady with the raven black hair on the great white horse went riding slowly past. And this time he sent his greatest knight on the fastest horse to go and catch her. But as fast as he rode, she was always just ahead and just out of reach. So he came back to the king, and they went back to the castle. And on the third day, they went again to the green and grassy mound. And this time, as the sun was setting and the beautiful lady with the raven black hair and the great white horse was riding slowly past, the king himself went on his own horse with his spurs on his heels and galloped as fast as he could to catch her. But however fast he rode, she was always just ahead and just out of reach. And as the sun was going down and she was about to disappear into the darkness, he called out to her, "Lady, will you wait and speak with me?" And she turned and she laughed and she said, "Yes, I'll wait. And it would have been better for the horses if you'd have asked me sooner." And so she turned to face him. And he asked her, "Who are you? And what are you doing?" She said, "I am Rhiannon, daughter of Hypaith Hen, and I'm going about my business." And he said, "Well, what is your business?" She said, "Well, my business mostly was to speak to you and to find out if you would marry me, because I have been promised to a man against my will, and the only man I really want to marry is you. So I'm seeking an answer to my question." And Pwyll Penanwen thought that she was the most beautiful woman in the world, and that she was the only woman that he could ever want to marry. So he said he would. He said yes. Rhiannon said, "Good. In 1 year from now, come to the court of Hyffaith Hen, and there will be a wedding preparation and a ceremony and a celebration, and I'll be waiting for you, and it'll all be there ready. Go about your business until then, and don't forget the promise that you have made to me." So Pwyll Penanwen turned, and as Rhiannon disappeared into the darkness, he went back to his men. He never said a word about what had happened between them on that mound. But in a year's time, he took 99 of his men to the court of Hyffaith Hen, and there waiting for him was a celebration and a wedding all prepared, and Rhiannon. And after a very, very complicated business that involved lots of feasting and some trickery and the invention of a game called Badger in the Bag, eventually Rhiannon and Pwyll Penanwen were married. And they went back to Dyfed, where Pwyll was king. And they ruled happily and wisely for the first year and for the second. But at the start of the third year, Pwyll's advisors came to him and they said, "Sire, we're not happy. You don't have an heir to your throne. Now we know you're not as old as some of the men here, but you need an heir to carry on your throne. And if you can't have one, then you need to find a new wife." But Pwyll said, "Well, it's early days yet, give us time. We've not been married long. Give us till the end of this year, and then we'll see." And so it was that within the third year, Rhiannon gave birth to their son. And on the night of the birth, 6 women were brought in to watch over Rhiannon and her son as they slept. But as the night wore on, one by one, the women began to doze off. And as the first light of morning broke through, they awoke in a panic because the baby was gone. "What are we going to do? What shall we do? They'll burn us, they'll hang us, and it's nothing less than we deserve. What can we do?" "I know," said one of the women. "Here's a hunting bitch with some pups. Let's just kill a couple of the pups and smear the blood around Rhiannon's face and hands, pile up the bones next to her. We'll tell everyone that she destroyed her own son. There's 6 of us and only 1 of her, so our word will be stronger." And when Rhiannon woke, with the blood around her face and her hands and the pile of bones next to her, and she begged them and she pleaded with them not to tell lies about her. But however much she begged and pleaded, they wouldn't change their story. And so when she realised that it would be wiser to accept her punishment than to argue with them, that was what she did. And Pwyll's advisors came to him and they said, "Sire, you must divorce her." And he said, "Well, there's no reason to divorce her, really. If she hadn't given me an heir, then I would have grounds to divorce her, but I know she has. But if she's done something wrong, then she needs to be punished for it." And so the punishment was this, that for 7 years, she would wait by the stable of the castle, and she would carry visitors on her back, and she would tell everyone she met the story of what she had done to her son. And this she did, and the truth remained silent within her. But nearby there was a good man and his wife living, and they had a mare, a beautiful brown mare. Every year gave birth to a foal at Beltane. And every year that foal disappeared and nobody knew whatever happened to it. So one time the man decided that he would try and find out, and he set up a vigil in the barn. And so that Beltane night the foal was born, and as it was born, a giant clawed hand reached in through the window and grabbed the foal and was about to take it away when he sprang up with his axe and he cut it off at the elbow. And he heard a shrieking and a crashing and a screaming and a flash of light, and he rushed outside to see what was going on. But there was nothing there. Whatever it was had disappeared into the darkness. But as he went back into the barn, standing in the doorway was a small golden-haired boy. So he and his wife took the boy and raised him as their own. And the boy grew up with the foal, and they were inseparable. Until, after some time, they heard the story of what had happened at the castle. And they realised that the boy must be the son of Rhiannon. And so they set out to take him back home. And they got to the stables at the castle, and Rhiannon was there, and she offered to carry them on her back. But they said, no, we can't let you do that. So they walked by her side, and the boy with the foal by his side. And as they entered the court of Pwyll Penanwen, they said, Sire, this is your son. And everyone could see that it was true. And so Rhiannon was forgiven, and the kingdom was restored. And she named her son Pryderi, son of sorrow. And there we must leave Rhiannon and ancient Wales, and we must travel all the way to India, where the god Shiva and the goddess Shakti are celebrating their marriage for thousands and thousands of years. And one day they decide to take a trip down to Earth. And while they're there, walking along by the river, they see Rama. And Rama is looking for his wife, Sita. So Shiva comes down and he bows to Rama, and Shakti says, why did you bow to a mortal man? You're a god. And Shiva says, Rama is no mortal man. He is the face of Vishnu. Shakti said, I don't believe that. Rama said, Shiva said, go and ask. Go find out. So Shakti took on the disguise of Sita, Rama's wife, and she appeared to Rama. But as soon as she appeared to him, he recognised her instantly. And he bowed to her and he said, good morning, Goddess Shakti. Where is your husband Shiva today? Why are you alone? And she realised then that he was telling the truth. He was who he said he was. So she went back to Shiva to apologise and to make things up. But in this most strange and complicated of processes, by taking on the form of Sita, who apparently was Shiva's mother, she could no longer be his wife. He could only ever see her as his mother. So he became more and more estranged from her as a lover. And she was devastated. She went back to her father's kingdom, and she threw herself onto the flames of the fire, and she burnt her body to ashes. And Shiva was so distraught that he danced the Rudra Tandava, the dance of destruction. And he destroyed the entire kingdom. But the other gods, the Devis, were worried because they knew that the Rudra Tandava could destroy the entire universe. And they begged him to stop. But when he stopped, he sank into an icy melancholy. And he could not be shaken. So the gods gathered up the ashes of Shakti's body, and they divided them into 12, and they scattered them to the winds. And on the earth, 12 women were born of the goddess Shakti, one of whom was called Parvati. And Parvati spent her whole life in devotion to Shiva, trying to break him from his icy melancholy. She was in prayer, she was in meditation, she offered puja, but nothing would bring him out of his sadness and his loneliness. Until the god of love said, why don't you dance for him? And so Parvati danced for the god Shiva. And as she danced, the god of love took his arrows and he struck through the heart of Shiva, and he opened his eyes and he fell instantly in love with Parvati. And they married. And sometime later, Parvati gave birth to their son, Ganesha, the elephant-headed boy god. And there we must leave them, and we must travel further onwards to meet Mary Magdalene. And Mary Magdalene is holding an alabaster jar of perfumed oil called nard. And this perfumed oil is so rich and so sensuous and so expensive that they say that what was in it could feed the poor for a year. But Mary Magdalene broke that jar, and she used the oil to pour over the head of Jesus Christ and anoint him. And with a mixture of that oil and her tears, she washed his feet. And with her own hair and her kisses, she dried them, promising her love to him through death and beyond. I would like to finish with a reading called Thunder. I have issued from a great power, and visit all who contemplate me. I have been discovered by those who search diligently. Pay attention, those that meditate upon me, and listen well. All of you who are patiently waiting, take me to yourself. Don't dismiss me from your mind, and don't let your inner voices despise me. Don't forget me at any time or place. Be watchful. I am the first and the last. I am both respected and ignored. I am both harlot and holy. I am wife and virgin, mother and daughter, organs of my mother, barren, yet many are my sons. I am she whose marriage is auspicious, but I am husbandless. I am the midwife who doesn't carry the balm of birth pains. I am bride and groom, sired by my spouse. I am mother of my father, sister of my husband, and he's my son. I am slave of he who anointed me. I am ruler of my children, but he is the one from whom I was born. He shall be my son in time. My strength is from him. I am the rod of his potency in his youthful virility, and he is the staff of my old age. Whatever he wills happens. I am the unfathomable silence, and the thought that comes often. The voice of many sounds, and the word that appears frequently. I am the meaning of my name. Why am I despised? Do you love me and hate those who love me too? If you deny me, then admit me. You who pretend to tell the truth about me really lie. Yet you who've lied about me also tell the truth. If you know me, forget me. And those who don't know me, let them know. I am knowledge and ignorance. I am embarrassment and effrontery, shameless and ashamed. I am courage and fright. I am war and peace. Listen. I am disgraced, yet almighty. Notice my poverty and richness. Don't be unkind to me when I'm thrown out upon the ground. You'll find me hidden in those yet to come. Don't peer at me when I'm on the dung heap. Don't desert me or cast me out. You'll find me in the kingdom. Don't gaze at me when I'm ejected in disgrace, nor mock me. Don't hurl me amongst those who are slain violently. I am merciful and cruel. Be vigilant. Don't despise my servitude. Don't admire my self-control. Don't forsake me in my ineptitude. Never fear my power. Don't hate my timidity or pour scorn on my arrogance. I am she who dwells in all terror, the strength and the trembling. I am she who is pathetic and pleased in a pleasant place. I am stupid and I am wise. Why do you despise me in your councils? I'll be quiet among the quiet. I shall manifest and speak, yet why do Greeks hate me? I am a Philistine among Philistines, yet have the wisdom of Athens and the craftiness of the barbarians. My image is great in ancient Egypt, but is nothing amongst the Philistines. I've been hated everywhere, but also adored. I am that which people call life, and you call death. I am called the law and lawlessness. I am the hunted and the captured. I am the dispersed and the collected. I don't keep festivals but have many feasts. I am both godless and she who knows God is great. I am the one you've contemplated and mocked. I am ignorant, yet I teach. I am despised, yet admired. I am the one who conceals and then reveals herself. But when you conceal yourself, I shall appear. When you appear, I'll hide. Hold me to yourself from comprehension and regret. Take me to yourself in ugly and ruined places. Rob those who are good, even in their ugliness. Ashamed, take me to yourself shamelessly. Scald my organs in yourself. Advance all those who know me and my organs. Establish high creatures amongst the lowly. March on to childhood. Don't hate that state because it appears tiny. Don't reject greatness in smallness. My nature is peace, but war comes from me. I am an exile and a subject. I am substance and unsubstantial. Those who do not cling to me are ignoramuses, but those who dwell in me know my substance well. Those who are close don't know me. When you are near, I'm distant. On the day you're distant, I am close. I am within, in your heart. I am your true nature, the creativity of yourself. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was married to silence, and the Word and silence were one. Through their love all things were made. Without them nothing that was made has been made. The Word has spoken to the world, but the world has not understood it. Now it is time for the silence to speak.